So here's a little interesting problem. So we've got a very high rate of fire DSG build here, driven via a brushless motor. I've forgotten which one it is. I think it's was it Warhammer. I'll correct it on the video later if I need to. And it's just tearing pistons to pieces really. So we put this aluminium one in, but it is the softest aluminium you can imagine. I can squash that aluminium completely flat and tear it and twist it with just a pair of pliers with minimal force. And it actually, the metal tooth rack, the steel tooth that's in it, it's held at this end, obviously with the piston head on as well as the lip there, but it's open at the back, and this one actually failed by snapping the metal tooth rack along here, and the first two teeth just coming completely out because it's totally open at the back. And if you contrast that with a plastic piston like this, it's ZCI or SHS, so it's held there, and yeah, it's not exactly the strongest thing in the world, but there's a bit of plastic there holding the rack from just anything coming out the back end if it does indeed fracture. Might have just been unlucky with this piston. It might have been, you know, poor metal tooth rack, but wasn't happy. So I thought, well, that's better because at least it's enclosed in the back. But one of these has not survived that long either. And yes, AOE is correct, everything's right, but it's still just hammering these pistons. So look at this one. "3D printed. That's not going to last very long, or is it?" So I don't expect this particular one to last that long. I just want to see if it generally works. So what I've done, I've extended the back of the piston to give this rack, you know, no chance of coming out the back unless the whole thing shears. It's printed in carbon PLA. PLA tends to generally be not good for impact, but it is easy to print and it's good for proof of concept. I have printed one other version somewhere here, but it's in a poor quality PETG, which is much better for impact resistance, but I'm just not happy with the quality. That print is terrible, so I need to get some better PETG, but this will do as a start for 10. It's optimized, you know, that the layer height it's been printed at is 0.4, so layer height starts and physical strength are linked. So if you're printing this at lovely 0.1 layer height to get a really nice surface finish, the bonding between the layers is not that great. You need thicker layers for strength. Ideally the layers should be printed at 90 degrees to the stressors, but they're not. Could try printing it so it was printed like that. I could possibly print it that way, and then you've got long continuous beads of plastic making it up. So effectively layer orientation is important. That's the nicest way to print it, but it's not the strongest way. So I suspect this will probably work, but I don't think it'll work for very long. But if it does okay, then we'll print it in something that's a bit more impact resistant, because this thing is doing like 40-50 rounds a second. It's just hammering things. So we'll see, but I expect that not to last particularly long, and like I say, do it in PETG, something that's much more impact resistant. I could even try ABS, to be honest, but ABS layered, although it's very impact resistant, layer adhesion in ABS is nowhere near as good as PETG. So yeah, we'll see. What do you think? How long will it last? Let's find out. Okay, so we've got it in the gearbox there, and I'll just show you. So hopefully it isn't all going to ping apart, 'cause it's nicely shimmed. There we go, so it picks the piston up nicely. then that's how far back it goes before you can slam forward. So what I'm going to do now, it's just easier to mark the tooth and then grind off the teeth that we don't need. I've added some sector delayers on there as well, just to help with feeding. Right, so I'm just going to mark the last tooth that the sector gear is engaging with, so I know which ones to grind off after that. Okay, so there we go. So there's our half rack piston now for a DSG setup. Let's put it in the box and see if it works. Okay, so it's back together. Got the 3D printed piston in, and it's a Warhead Industries. It's the highest speed spec motor. I've not gone for the big bang approach. I put an M100 spring in here, so it's pretty soft. And I'm going to use an 8.4 rather than 11.1 to start with. So let's see what happens. I've literally not tried this beforehand, so I have no idea what's going to happen. Okay, so it's the Perrin MOSFET in there, so everything's beeping okay. I think we'll just put it into semi for now. Is it going to jam? What's going to happen? Bloody hell. That, I think is working, I think. Let's try that again. Okay. I'm just going to turn the pre-cocking off and anything like that, so it's just really basic, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so you can see the pre-cocking. It's on the yellow light on the Perrin, and that's 8. And press it again. It's completely off now. It's 4 on the trigger sensitivity. DSG's, I think that might be LiPo alarm, that. DSG enabled. Reset. Right. So I'm just going to put it into semi, and if you didn't know, in your Perrin MOSFETs, if you hold it on semi, it'll decock it. There you go. But to be fair, it's such a soft spring in there, and it's only half tooth. It's probably fired and overspun, because I don't think, let me just check, I don't think I've got any active braking on. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, there is some active braking on. Maybe it's not enough. Definitely no pre-cocking. Right. Okay, let's get a few goes on semi. Motor maybe needs shimming a little bit. Go on, let's try on full auto. No way. Can't believe that's... Is that working? Oh. There we go. Yep, something's given way there. Worked for a little bit. We'll have to see what's happened. Okay, so last screws to come out. When I slackened it off a bit, something did spring forward, so I'm just wondering whether this spring guide had just rocked slightly in the gearbox, and it really should be fully assembled with the back in the lower receiver and the stock put on and the screw put through to keep it really true and square. But to be fair, I doubt it's that. I think there's probably something happened to that piston. Well, let's have a look. Maybe it was that. Still in one piece. The only other thing I can think perhaps it is the I hadn't fully tightened the motor base plate screws. I wonder whether it just comes slightly adrift. Yes, it's still in one piece. Amazing. Okay, let's get that back in the right place. I think we'll put it back together. I might be tempted to put a stiffer spring in it now. Put the M150 that's cut. I'm going to put that in. It's okay so far, but we'll stick with this 7.4 lipo. We'll see what goes on. So here's the M1. I think it's an M150 or an M160. Cut and reshaped, heated and reshaped at the end. So we'll put that in. See how we get on. Okay, all back together. Yeah, the spring guide. I mean, this spring's a lot shorter. It's tougher, but a lot shorter. So I'm wondering just whether that longer spring and the guide had just wobbled slightly and it buckled inside. So we'll see. A good test when you're assembling gearboxes as well, just out of interest, is once you've assembled it, in fact, partly before you tighten all the screws up. So one, check the tappet plate moves freely. And the piston should always be set with the sector gear, so it's not going to be engaged, and the sector gear needs to turn around a bit more to engage it. I should really be using a flat end screwdriver, but you know, just pushing this in here and just checking that the piston hasn't jumped off the rails, which that's not done, so that's moving nicely. Right, so whack it all back in and carry on. Okay, so we've got it back together again. Got slightly tougher spring in there. I think either I hadn't fully tightened up the motor grip plate, or because I haven't got the stock back on here, it was quite a long M100 spring that was in there. I think maybe the spring guide had wobbled slightly and it just jammed up. But anyway, we've got an 11.1 on here now. I'm just going to go full auto, see what happens. No, semi. I'll go semi first, see what happens. Is it going to work? Nice. It's not. Okay. Full auto. I'm not convinced this is going to work or last very long. Oh, no way. What? Let's do another quick burst. Wow. I seriously thought that would have failed almost immediately. Right. Decock it. Right, well I guess that just needs some abuse now. See how long it lasts. yeah, it's been through a couple of pistons with this Warhead Industries motor and DSG setup and everything, and it's also been through the stock G&G gearbox really fast, to be honest. It was probably less than 1,000 rounds and it all cracked at the front. So we've got this Retro Arms CNC gearbox in here. It's about 130 quid. Hopefully that should last to the hammering on full auto. But yeah, let's give it more of a go now, see how long it lasts this time.